Live from New Delhi, you're watching GD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Amritpal Singh. Coming up in the next 1 hour, North Korea warns of military action against any threats from the United States, Japan, South Korea, as US and Australia launch the largest ever Talisman saber drills. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen issues a stark warning to the United States, says EU will retaliate against Trump's proposed tariffs. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar calls on Deputy Prime Minister of Singapore, Gan Kim Yong. The External Affairs Minister will visit China to participate in the SCO Council of Foreign Ministers meeting in Tianjin. And Exom Mission 4 to depart from the space splashed down on Earth on Monday. Indian astronaut aboard the spaceship says, Subhanshu Shukla says, today India continues to be the best country in the world. Australia's Prime Minister Anthony Albanese is on a visit to China. The tour comes amid rising tensions over Taiwan and growing concerns about China's military ambitions in the Indo-Pacific. DD India's Abhishek Bose brings us more in the next report.
Australia's Prime Minister Anthony Albanese is on a 6-day visit to China. His visit comes at a time of heightened regional tensions, especially over China's broad territorial claims in the South China Sea. Speaking to the media in Shanghai on Sunday, Prime Minister Albanese reaffirmed Australia's long-standing position on Taiwan. He said Australia supports the status quo.
I think it's important that we have a consistent position, which Australia has had for a long period of time. We support the status quo. When it comes to Taiwan, we don't support any unilateral action there. We have a clear position and we have been consistent about that. What's important when it comes to international relationships is that you have a stable, orderly, coherent position going forward. Australia does. We want peace and security in our region. We don't want any change to the status quo.
Relations between Australia and China have seen many ups and downs over the past decade, with tensions often fueled by national security concerns and conflicting interests across the vast Pacific region. Adding to the complexity, Australia's Defence Industry Minister Pat Conroy has clarified that Australia will not make any advance commitment to send troops in the event of a conflict.
Decision to commit Australian troops to a conflict will be made by the government of the day. Not in advance, but by the government of the day, and that's our position, and it's been long established.
His comments follow reports that the Pentagon has asked Australia to clarify its role in a possible conflict with China over Taiwan. Though Australia expressed concerns over China's growing military power, including its nuclear and conventional capabilities, it supports a stable Indo-Pacific region where no single country holds dominance. Meanwhile, Australia's largest joint military exercise with the United States, known as Talisman Sabre, began on Sunday in Sydney Harbour. It involves 40,000 troops from 19 countries, including Japan, South Korea, India, the UK, France, and Canada. The exercises will stretch across thousands of kilometers from Christmas Island in the Indian Ocean to the Coral Sea of Australia's east coast. Australian officials say the Chinese Navy may be watching the drills as it has done in previous years.
I fully expect that the People's Republic of China will want to come and observe the activities that occur as part of Exercise Talisman Sabre. They've made a habit of that over a preceding iterations of the exercise, there is no sign yet.
At the same time, Taiwan has begun deploying some of its most advanced weapons. Ahead of live fire drills, 2 armored trucks carrying HIMARS, high mobility artillery rocket systems, were seen moving through the city of Taichung on the central coast. In recent years, China has stepped up its military activities near Taiwan, including large-scale drills and frequent patrols by its Navy and Air Force. Japan has also spoken out strongly criticizing China's military actions near Taiwan. Tokyo called the drills incompatible with peace and stability in the Taiwan Strait. As tensions rise, the South China Sea remains a flashpoint for competing interests, where stability and open access are increasingly at risk. Abhishek Bose for DD India.
North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has reaffirmed unconditional support for Russia's war in Ukraine during talks with Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, as both nations strengthen their military and political ties. The meeting in Wonsan coincided with the heightened tensions as North Korea warned of military action against any threats from US, Japan or South Korea.
North Korean leader Kim Jong-un reaffirmed full support for Russia's war in Ukraine during talks with Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, offering unconditional support for Russia's efforts to address the crisis. Lavrov's visit highlighted the strengthening military and political ties between the two nations amidst the ongoing Ukraine conflict. Moscow also initiated bi-weekly flights to Pyongyang, while both sides emphasized their shared stance against Western influence. North Korea has contributed artillery, ammunition, and pledged to send military engineers to assist in the reconstruction of Russia's Kursk region. Reports indicate North Korea has shipped around 12 million rounds of artillery ammunition to Russia, cementing their military alliance. In return, Lavrov thanked North Korea for its military aid and reaffirmed the commitment to deepen bilateral ties following their June 2024 summit.
During the first round of our strategic dialogue, when you visited Moscow in November 2024, you described our new foundational dialogue as a solid basis for an invincible fighting brotherhood.
The meeting in Wonsan came amid heightened tensions in the region as South Korea, Japan, and the US conducted a joint air drill, which included a US B-52 strategic bomber. North Korea warned it would take military action against any perceived threats from the US, Japan, or South Korea. As Russia and North Korea continue to strengthen their military and political ties, the growing alliance is further complicated by rising tensions with the US and its allies, especially concerning security concerns in the Korean peninsula. Rabindra Chauhan's report for DD India.
US President Donald Trump reignited the trade tensions with a bold new policy, a 30% tariff on all imports from the European Union and Mexico, coming into effect next month. Now the announcement made via Trump's Truth Social account sent shockwaves through global markets and diplomatic circles. The EU has responded by saying that they will retaliate against these tariffs. Rahul Upadhyay brings us more.
US President Donald Trump is once again turning up the heat on global trade. In letters posted to his Truth Social account, Trump declared 30% tariff on all imports from European Union and Mexico.
The bottom line is that he's seen some sketches of deals that have been negotiated with Howard Lutnick and the rest of the trade team, and the president thinks the deals need to be better. Well, these tariffs are real if the president doesn't get a deal that he thinks is good enough. But, conversations are ongoing, and we'll see where the dust settles.
The tariffs, Trump says, are aimed at correcting what he calls unfair trade deficits and cracking down on fentanyl trafficking from Mexico. But critics warn the move could disrupt supply chains and raise prices for American consumers.
Well, it shows that Donald Trump thinks he can maybe get a deal by threatening to escalate. But I think it will backfire. I think what he has signaled to the EU is that all the efforts that the European Commission has made to try to accommodate, try to negotiate a deal, meant nothing for Trump.
Meanwhile, European leaders reacted quickly to Trump's announcement that he would impose 30% tariffs on EU goods starting August 1st. In a post on X, European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen noted that the tariffs would hurt businesses, consumers, and patients on both sides of the Atlantic. She also warned of countermeasures against US tariffs.
We have prepared and agreed on a first list of countermeasures. We have developed a second potential list of countermeasures that is by now agreed to. And the ACI is created for extraordinary situations. We are not there yet. This is very important. This is now the time for negotiations, but this also shows we are prepared for all eventual scenarios.
While European Council President Antonio Costa said the European Union remains firm, united and ready to protect its interests, adding that tariffs fuel inflation and create uncertainty. However, Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum expressed her belief that an agreement with the United States can be reached before the 30% tariffs announced by President Trump take effect on 1st August.
We believe, based on what our colleagues discussed yesterday, that we will reach an agreement with the USA and that we will, of course, achieve better conditions.
Meanwhile, Mexicans expressed concern about the impact on the cost of living due to such measures.
Whether we like it or not, we continue to be and have been dependent on our neighboring country, the United States. All that is called nationalism, the words that are highly valued for us as Mexicans, which has taught us since childhood the famous sovereignty, respect, work, dignity, all that we are losing.
The Trump administration has sent similar letters to 23 other US trading partners this week, including Canada, Japan, and Brazil. Whether this is a negotiating tactic or the start of a new trade war remains to be seen. Rahul Upadhyay's report for DD India.
And still to come up on DD India NewsHour, US President Donald Trump claims that he has solved the NATO problem. Trump also defends his tariffs. Russia slams a news report that claims that Russia backs a zero-enrichment Iranian nuclear deal. And Malaysian former Prime Minister Mahathir Mohamad discharged from hospital.
Meghalaya, the abode of clouds. A land so enchanting. It makes time stand still. With a distinctive and ethnic culture. And vibrant tribal folklore. Filled with the goodness of nature. Every day here is an adventure. Home to music, passion, and to hopes and ambitions. Welcome to the magical land of Meghalaya.
You're watching DD India NewsHour. I'm Amritpal Singh. US President Donald Trump, in an interview to Fox News, has said that he has solved the NATO problem last week. Trump also defended his tariff threats against several countries.
I solved the NATO problem last week, and we had every country is now paying substantially more money, like from 2% to 5%, and they weren't paying the 2, but they're paying the 5, and it's over $1 trillion a year. And we have a big voice in NATO now. We had really not much of a voice. With Biden, you had no voice at all. He didn't know where he was.
And Trump also defended his Attorney General Pam Bondi following backlash from some of his own supporters over the Justice Department's handling of the Jeffrey Epstein case. The criticism comes after a joint memo from the FBI and Justice Department concluded that there was no evidence to support long-standing conspiracy theories about Epstein's death in the federal custody in 2019 or the alleged activities of his reported clientele. Trump addressed the controversy on social media, on Truth Social, saying that nobody cares about Epstein and that no more time or energy should be spent on the case. Some conservative voices, including Laura Loomer and Elon Musk, have openly criticized Bondi and FBI Director Kash Patel, questioning the timing and substance of the findings, especially after Bondi had earlier promised major revelations. Federal officials on Sunday defended President Trump's escalating campaign to deport immigrants in the U.S. illegally, including a California farm raid that left one worker dead, and said the administration would appeal against a ruling to halt some of its more aggressive tactics. Trump has vowed to deport millions of people from the country who are there illegally, and he's already executed raids at work sites, including farms that were largely exempted from enforcement during his first term. The administration has faced dozens of lawsuits across the country for its tactics. The Department of Homeland Security Chief Kristi Noem and Trump's border czar Tom Homan said on Sunday that the administration would appeal against a federal judge's Friday ruling that blocked the administration from detaining immigrants based solely on racial profiling and denying detained people the right to speak with a lawyer. And Trump said he might revoke the talk show host Rosie O'Donnell's U.S. citizenship after she criticized his administration's handling of weather forecasting agencies in wake of the deadly Texas floods. The latest salvo in the years-long feud that the two have waged over social media. Under U.S. law, the president cannot revoke the citizenship of an American born in the United States. O'Donnell was born in New York State. O'Donnell, a longtime target of Trump's insults and jabs, moved to Ireland earlier this year with her 12-year-old son after the start of the president's second term. She said in a TikTok video in March that she would return to the U.S. when it is safe for all citizens to have equal rights there in America. Russia said that it has taken control of another village in the west of Ukraine's Donetsk region on Sunday, as its troops advance towards neighboring Dnipropetrovsk region. Russia's defense ministry said that Russian troops had captured the village of Myrin, calling the village by its Soviet name Karl Marx. It lies close to the administrative border between the Donetsk and Dnipro regions. The ministry claimed that forces had moved deep into the enemy's defense to take the village. Marin was one of the two villages Moscow claimed on Sunday. Russia has for months refused a ceasefire proposed by the United States and Kyiv. Russia's Foreign Affairs Ministry on Sunday described reports claiming that President Vladimir Putin had encouraged his Iranian ally to accept a zero-enrichment agreement on its nuclear program as defamation. U.S. news outlet Axios reported on Saturday, citing three anonymous sources familiar with the matter, that Putin had encouraged Iran to accept a deal with the United States that would prevent the Islamic Republic from enriching uranium. According to Russian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the article appears to be a new political defamation campaign aimed at increasing tensions around Iran's nuclear program. Tehran is suspected by Western countries and Israel of seeking to develop an atomic bomb, which it denies, defending its non-negotiable right to develop a civilian nuclear program. Meanwhile, Iran has said that it was reviewing the details of a possible resumption of talks with the United States on its nuclear program. Tehran and Washington had been engaged in talks since April, but those efforts were disrupted when U.S. ally Israel launched a surprise attack on Iran's nuclear facilities on June 13th, just 2 days before a planned meeting in Oman. Meanwhile, Iran has planned to cooperate with the UN nuclear watchdog despite restrictions imposed by its parliament. Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi said on Saturday, but stressed that access to its bombed nuclear sites posed a security and safety issue. The new law stipulates that any future inspection of Iran's nuclear sites by the IAEA or the International Atomic Energy Agency needs approval by the Supreme National Security Council, which is Iran's top security body. A Gaza-bound boat carrying pro-Palestinian activists and humanitarian aid left Sicily on Sunday, over a month after Israel detained and deported people aboard a previous vessel. The Handala, operated by Freedom Flotilla Coalition, left the port of Syracuse carrying about 15 activists. Several dozen people, some holding Palestinian flags and others wearing kafiyeh scarves, gathered at the port to cheer the boat's departure. The former Norwegian trawler loaded with medical supplies, food, children's equipment and medicine will sail for about a week in the Mediterranean, covering roughly 1,800 kilometers in the hope of reaching Gaza's coast. Syria's Civil Defense Agency on Sunday said wildfires in the country's west, which have burned vast tracts of forest and farmland and forced evacuations, had been brought under control after 10 days. In a statement, the agency said that with the spread of fires halted and the fire's hotspots brought under control on all fronts on Saturday, teams on the ground were now working to cool down the affected areas while monitoring any signs of reignition. The blazes in the coastal province of Latakia broke out amid an intense heat wave across the region. The UN humanitarian agency OCHA said that the fire destroyed about 100 square kilometers of forest and farmland. As the fires raged, Syrian emergency workers faced tough conditions, including high temperatures, strong winds, rugged mountainous terrain, and the danger of explosive war remnants. This all comes in a country worn down by years of conflict and economic crisis. Let's now take a look at other stories making news around the world. 8 people were injured during the final bull run of this year's San Fermin festival in Spain's Pamplona. Bulls from La Palmosilla ranch charged through the city's narrow streets in 2 minutes and 24 seconds. 6 of the injured were hospitalized. Hundreds of runners dressed in traditional white and red raced alongside the bulls on the route. Former Malaysian Prime Minister Mahathir Mohamad was hospitalized for fatigue in the National Heart Institute of Kuala Lumpur on Sunday. He's out of the hospital now. The 100-year-old leader, who stepped down as Prime Minister in 2003 after 22 years, was attending a picnic celebration for his milestone birthday when he left early, reportedly feeling tired after cycling for an hour. Cambodia celebrated the UNESCO World Heritage inscription of the 3 sites linked to the Khmer Rouge regime on Sunday. the Teol Slang prison or the Choing Ek killing fields in Phnom Penh and the M13 prison in Kampong Chang were officially listed as Cambodian memorial sites, from centers of repressions to places of peace and reflection. Heavy rain in Spain's Catalonia region led to severe flooding affecting roads and plains. The Spanish weather agency had issued red alerts, and footage from the firefighting service showed cars driving through flooded streets. Still to come up on DD India News Hour, we gauge the implications of 19-country military drills taking place in the Pacific and why it could raise the hackles of Chinese, with two special guests on the show. Harshvardhan Shringla and Ujjwal Nikam among 4 members nominated to India's upper house of parliament by President Murmu. An Exom Mission 4 astronaut crew set to return to Earth on July 14th.
स्वागत आहे टू मैग्नेटिक महाराष्ट्र. Share in the richness of Maharashtra as one family, united by the collective vision of building a better tomorrow.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Amritpal Singh. Let's look at the headlines once again that we're tracking at this hour before we proceed further in the show. North Korea warns of military action against any threats from the US, Japan or South Korea as US and Australia launch the largest ever Talisman Sabre drills. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen issues a stark warning to the United States, says the EU will retaliate against Trump's proposed tariffs. And Exom Mission 4 to depart from space splashed down on Earth on Monday. Indian astronaut aboard the mission, Shubhanshu Shukla, says today's India continues to look the best country in the world. So there is a 19-member military drill that's taking place in the Pacific around Australia and PNG. What could be the implications of it? The Australians are saying that the Chinese will watch it very clearly. All this even while the Australian Prime Minister is in China on a 6-day visit. What does it mean? What implications could it have? India is also part of the military exercise. To decode that, to understand that, I'm joined on the show by two special guests. Lieutenant General retired Sanjay Kulkarni. He's a former Director General of Infantry, and Shubhajit Roy. He's the diplomatic editor of the Indian Express. Thank you for both gentlemen for being on the show. First to you, General, what should we make of this military exercise? Why are these 19 countries gathering there and conducting this military exercise? What is the purpose?
Thank you, Amrit. First and foremost, these exercises are held every alternate year. And this is the 11th of this. And 19 nations, as you rightly said, India is part of it, along with Japan, Australia, United States, you have Britain, France, all of these countries. Primarily, it is to check China in the Indo-Pacific. There is no denying the fact that the Chinese might just be thinking at this point of time that, well, everybody keeps engaged everywhere. America is also engaged, so are the Russians, and so are the Israelis. Everyone engaged, and therefore this just could be an opportune time. That is what they might be thinking. Well, the Taiwanese have also immobilized themselves without fail, and the kind of 11 aircrafts over there, the number of vessels over there, the ships over there, crossing the ADIZ, that the Air Defense Identification Zone is concerned, that is the median line is crossed. About 8 or 9 of the Chinese aircraft have crossed that median line. But notwithstanding that, the Chinese are also all the time pressurizing the Taiwanese, to toe the line of China, to be a part of China. That's what it is. Well, Lee, the president of Taiwan, says irrespective of the parties in Taiwan, they stand for their sovereignty. They wouldn't get bullied by the Chinese. But the Chinese, as they have always been wanting it, probably the Chinese still feel that the supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without a fight. So fire nothing, pressurize, a lot of what he calls, Lee calls it influence warfare, propaganda, pressurize, and all of it. Then, of course, a conflict, and then Americans are obviously equally worried, though, as most of them have been feeling that the Americans haven't given a blank check that they would support and protect Taiwan. So that is also there. But the HIMARS having got positioned by the Americans in Taiwan, and there's, these particular artillery weapons which have a range of almost 480 kilometers, and the strait itself, as we know, is just about 180 kilometers by 130. Taiwan is about 160 kilometers at its base. Even if you take the distance between Taiwan, the island, and the Chinese mainland. So keeping all this in view, I think the Taiwan is prepared for it, but the Chinese have always insisted that Taiwan is part of China, and also that the South China Sea, 3.6 million square kilometers, when the Chinese intend wanting 90% of the South China Sea. So the Chinese have, in their own mind, been wanting to claim the South China Sea, not allowing there be the Pashtun Islands, the Paracel Islands, the Scarborough.
Okay.
There's a lot which is happening there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Shubhajit, General Kulkarni argues that yes, the Chinese, would be watching very closely, and because of their concerns in the South China Sea, which they regard as their backyard. But this is South Pacific. It's very far. Why should the Chinese be concerned?
Well, China sees, the entire Indo-Pacific region as its backyard, as its sphere of influence. And in the last decade or so, especially under President Xi Jinping, we have seen, assertion of its, sovereignty, assertion of its military and political power in this region. So even if it's, as you argued, it's South Pacific, but China feels that and views this region as part of its backyard. So there is a sense of concern from China, but so all the Quad partners, India, Australia, Japan, and the US, they view these sort of statements and this positioning by China as much more aggressive and assertive in its behavior.
Okay. But Shubhajit, isn't it natural or normal on part of China to be concerned if somebody comes and docks when the Chinese dock a ship in Sri Lanka? Don't we get concerned? So isn't it natural for the Chinese to be concerned that what are these 19 nations as far as from the United Kingdom and Canada and France and of course the Quad members, the Quad partners are a part of this exercise?
Well, as you know that the seas and the law of the seas dictate that none of these oceans or seas are sovereign territory of one country, because international trade moves through the waters of these Pacific Ocean or the Indian Ocean. So there is a sort of a logic behind freedom of navigation, which is enshrined in the United Nations Charter as well as the UN laws. So I think from that perspective, every country which relies on international trade, which crosses the Pacific or crosses the Indian Ocean, has a stake in this freedom of navigation and overflight. So from that perspective, countries even far away have a stake in the peace and stability, and therefore the China sort of cannot object to in the movement or in the military exercises conducted by countries of that region.
Okay, let me get this to General Kulkarni. But General Kulkarni, Shobhajit argues that, because of freedom of navigation, so all these who are conducting this exercise are really stakeholders in it. So if they're conducting an exercise, there's no problem with it. The only problem is it's a military exercise. So the Chinese, it wouldn't be, one shouldn't be surprised if the Chinese look at this as the others led by the US ganging up on them.
The Chinese are also bullying everyone in the South China Sea. The Chinese have also been firing across the Yonaguni Islands, which are just about 100 kilometers from Okinawa to Taiwan. So the North Koreans have been firing missiles over the Japanese main island. So all this, not that they aren't threatening the island nations. We've seen since 1974 how they have killed the sailors, the Vietnamese sailors, how they've done that again in 1988, about 60-odd Vietnamese sailors then, how they've been using a laser gun to blind the Philippine ships over there. Because all this area firstly has a huge amount of shipping. That is the South China Sea that I'm talking about. Huge fishing, 50% of the world shipping. Also, of course, like rightly brought out, it's a freedom of navigation. Almost about 21% of the world's trade, $5 trillion of trade passes through this. But in the East China Sea, the South China Sea. Now, Japan per se, of course, the Chinese wouldn't want. But then the Japanese also have a base in Okinawa, where the US is based in Japan. But that Okinawa is about 500 kilometers, and this Yonaguni Island is just about 100 kilometers. All island is 1,700 inhabitants. But notwithstanding all that, it takes time. Unless there's a quick response and effective deterrence against the Chinese, Taiwanese would always be feeling threatened by such an overwhelming, huge nation like China. And at point of time, when Xi Jinping himself, is not very confident in what's going on in China. So that is also one of the reasons that the Chinese would want to show their assertiveness over Taiwan, that this is the time. Xi Jinping also might be feeling to gain back his popularity in China, do it with the, when the iron is on, when everyone else is occupied elsewhere. But then Americans, the Japanese, Australians, everybody feels very strongly that the Chinese can't have their way. Now, China till 47 has been different, and again after that, Vietnamese placed these islands, partly in Prasar Islands in 17th century belong to them. It isn't like that. So there is a lot that the Chinese, probably the more richer they get, the more economically prosperous they get, the more militarily strong they get, they intend bullying the countries along. They don't trust ASEAN They don't want to go along with ASEAN. They want to treat every country bilaterally so that together they sit across the table and then bully. Bully because they have strength, they have money power, they have military power, and they do what they want to do in South China Sea. So there is a lot that is happening, and Taiwanese are bound to feel how often the Chinese cross the median line, as often as they wish to, and keep crossing the area. That's not the way the Chinese must also do. So the democracy of Taiwan is being protected by all other freedom-loving nations, insisting on the freedom of navigation, and China insists on expansionism, domination, bullying. Well, nobody will accept that from China.
Okay.
Yeah.
Shubhajit, you cover these affairs on the foreign affairs. You look at this region closely. Do the Chinese really bully? I mean, on Taiwan, they actually look at it as part of their territory. That's a dispute, which if they're increasing their sphere of influence in the East China Sea or have a problem with the Japanese on some islands, they look at them as part of their country. If they are increasing their sphere of influence, the pearl of strings, etc., but which country doesn't do that? Aren't the Americans doing that? Which country doesn't do that? So do they really bully, and is there unilateralism as the American camp says?
Well, you have to only see India's border with China, how it has played out in the last 5 years since 2020 to understand whether they bully or not.
No, but you have a border dispute with them, na? Shubhajit, you have a border dispute with them.
Yeah. So India has a border dispute, and so does, say, Japan. So they do face the heat for, having a border with China. So in that sense, China has, as it has grown in its economic power and military power, it has in the last 10-15 years started asserting itself much more proactively than it had done in the past. And this we have seen not just in the India-China border, but also in the Indo-Pacific. So I think what we have seen, these instances have increased in the last decade or so. And that is what concerns everyone around the world, that the second biggest economy and military power in the world is asserting itself, flexing its muscles, and trying to intimidate its neighbors in the last 10-15 years. So, and that has become much more pronounced. And that's why I think there's been a reason for concern from the world, including India, US, Australia, and Japan.
Okay. So, all right. So, General, if to understand from you, how do the Indians look at it? The Indians are a part of the military exercise, but say on Taiwan, we maintain a one China policy. We do not have a full-fledged mission of ours there. We have some kind of a representative office for trade and culture, etc. So how do the Indians look at it? We have a feud with them when it comes to resolving the border issue, but beyond that, how do we step?
See, when you look at Tibet, for instance, now that's one place we always been insisting that right from 1912 onwards, that Tibet has been virtually independent and a sovereign. They've been having their own passport, own currency, and we have the 1914 agreement, all of it on the McMahon line, all of it that goes along. Taiwan also, around the same time, together, both the PRC and the ROC had been together wanting to get rid of the dynasty over there and what they call it as 100 years of humiliation. After that, of course, the breakup took place and you found the PRC in the mainland and the ROC moved to Taiwan. So they are the same lot. It isn't that they're different lots, but just that because the People's Republic of China seems to think that the Republic of China is also there. It isn't so. Shanghai State moved there. So there is a lot, but we have been very, very close to Taiwan all along. The ROC is even before the Second World War, continuously all along, and with Shanghai State, but with Nehru had a fantastic relation. So we've had a very good thing, except that both of them fought the revolution together, but the PRC decided to win and remain land, and then the PRC wanted the ROC as part of them. So that is their internal problems and concerns. Definitely, Taiwan is a prosperous country. Taiwan is a huge chip manufacturing country. It's a huge, I would say, influence in technology that it has.
All that is there, General. My question was that, when the tensions rise, we generally tend to say silent and out of it, saying it's an internal affair of theirs. They should resolve it. At max, our position would be ambivalent, saying that, oh, it should not be very aggressive. The aggressive maneuvers shouldn't be there. But we don't say all that. But actually, we've got concerns with an expanding China, because that somewhere steps on our sphere of influence.
No, definitely. We have no doubt we have concerns, because China has not been adhering to any of the treaties that they signed. And so China has not been able to walk the talk at all. See what they have done in Galwan, despite all the border agreements that we've had. And therefore, much that to have good relations with China, we do accept one China policy. There is no denying the fact. We do accept that this part of China, no doubt about that. But that does not mean China starts taking it for granted and starts doing what it wants to do. It is with a view to have good relations. And in that context, China cannot afford to think that no, we will continue to do what we want, and we are the center of the universe. We are the ones who matter. Let all of you sit down on the floor. I am the only one who will be sitting on the table.
All right.
That's not acceptable.
Okay. My producer tells me that I'm totally out of time, but before I let go of you both, Shubhajit, I want to ask you, how do we see the Australians, while the Australians are holding this exercise because it's happening on their territory, in their naval, in their waters. The Australian Prime Minister is in China for a 6-day visit, and there he goes and says, well, we would prefer the status quo, essentially saying that we don't agree with the Chinese that they should dominate Taiwan, or Taiwan is a part of their territory.
Yeah, as Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese is in China, and he is trying to mend the relationship with China that had really gone south under the Conservatives in the government the last decade or so. And ever since he came to power, that has been sort of his effort, while not compromising on the sort of the assertive and the expansionist behavior that the Australians view the Chinese conducting in their sort of periphery. So he's trying to strike that balance, and the Chinese are also viewing this as a sort of a progressive improvement of the relationship. And that is how we have to frame this particular visit by Anthony Albanese, who is, I think this is his first visit after he was re-elected. And so Australia and China is really trying to build...
But Shubhajit, how is he mending the relationship, or trying to mend the relationship, if he lands in China and says this on their soil, that, well, we believe that, no, Taiwan is not a part of you. If somebody were to land up here on our soil and say something on Kashmir, wouldn't that raise our hackles?
Yeah, it would. But I think that is the balancing act that Prime Minister Albanese is trying to make, that to focus on the economic side of the relationship, which is very important for Australia, because as you would remember, China had imposed a lot of trade barriers, non-tariff barriers, and had really strong-armed with the Australians in the last 5 years or so, 5 to 7 years or so. And Albanese is trying to mend that relationship and take a much more pragmatic step when it comes to economic relationship, but maintain a strong posture politically. So I think he's trying to
strike a balance and see that he can have a trade relationship, and as you say, but he does have a problem with their expansionist attitude towards, generally in the region and otherwise. I'll have to close it here. Thank you both gentlemen, General Sanjay Kulkarni, Shubhajit Roy, for being on the show and lending us your insights. Thank you. India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar called on Deputy Prime Minister of Singapore, Gan Kim Yong, on Sunday evening in Singapore. The External Affairs Minister expressed his happiness at the steady progress in various bilateral initiatives. Minister Jaishankar looked forward to the third India-Singapore Ministerial Roundtable. Lawyer Ujjwal Nikam and former Foreign Secretary Harshvardhan Shringla are among the 4 people President Draupadi Murmu has nominated to India's upper house of parliament or the Rajya Sabha. In a Gazette notification put out by the Ministry of Home Affairs, the 4 members were nominated to the upper house of parliament, which comprises of people from varied backgrounds, including diplomacy, legal fraternity, a historian and a social worker. Those who were named on the Home Ministry's list of nominees include Harshvardhan Shringla, Ujjwal Nikam, Meenakshi Jain, who's an eminent historian, and Sadanandan Master, a Kerala teacher. Prime Minister Narendra Modi congratulated all 4 members who were nominated for the upper house, to the upper house. And Ujjwal Nikam is known for handling several of India's landmark criminal cases. He has been nominated to the Rajya Sabha, as I said. Speaking to DD India, Nikam expressed gratitude for the trust placed in him and said he looks forward to serving the nation in this new role.
Sir, very congratulations. First of all, this is obviously a new chapter. Looking at your rich history of the legal dedication and devotion, how would you call this nomination as?
Indeed, it's a very proud moment for me, not only for me, but for all my family members. Not only for family, but for my Jalgaon district, where from I came. Not only for Jalgaon, but even the Mumbai, because I built up my career. The whole Maharashtra was recognizing me because of my cases, like Bombay bomb blast cases and so many cases. And through Bombay, I was known to entire state of Maharashtra and the country also. So it's a great challenge for me because there are a lot of expectations of a common man from me. And I will try to discharge, try to fulfill with my all ability.
Do you have some things in your mind that you'll be, even before getting nominated for the Rajya Sabha, you had some things in your mind that, you'll be making these kind of changes if you had that power?
It is not only about the delaying proceedings in the court, but also about the extradition proceedings. We enter into extradition treaty with such country with whom we have a very good friendly relationship. But what happens? Because I had been to London also for one of the extradition proceedings, and the foreign court examine and assess our evidence. That our evidence means evidence collected by our Indian investigating agency on the basis of their law. I think this procedure is something very Dracula procedure. So I will think over how to make the simplified the extradition proceedings.
So that was Ujjwal Nikam, and we are also hoping that in future, in coming days, there will be major changes through him, and the common man will soon be witnessing it. With camera person Suresh Kale, this is Shyama Mishra for DD India, Mumbai.
On the final day of a 4-day visit to Meghalaya, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman visited the historic Ramakrishna Mission Ashram School in Sohra. During her visit, the minister paid floral tributes at the statues of Swami Ramakrishnananda and Swami Vivekananda. She was shown the mission's vocational training facilities, where around 100 women are being trained in weaving free of cost. And the AX-4 crew, which launched on June 25, 2025 from NASA's Kennedy Space Center, concluded their mission aboard the International Space Station after completing over 250 orbits of Earth and traveling more than 6 million miles. A special farewell ceremony took place at about 7:25 this evening, marking a historic moment as Group Captain Subhanshu Shukla, the Indian astronaut aboard the mission and first Indian astronaut in the ISS, bid farewell to space.
These missions have much far-reaching implications beyond science, and that is what I believe that this mission would also do in all of our respective countries as well. Going back from here, I carry with me a lot of memories and the learnings out of this mission that I would try and spread back. But the one thing that really sticks to me is what humanity is capable of when all of us come together from different parts of the world and work for a common goal or a common objective. It is truly incredible. आज का भारत स्पेस से महत्वाकांक्षी दिखता है. आज का भारत निडर दिखता है. आज का भारत कॉन्फिडेंट दिखता है. आज का भारत गर्व से पूर्ण दिखता है. और इन्हीं सब कारणों की वजह से मैं एक बार फिर से कह सकता हूँ कि आज का भारत अभी भी सारे जहां से अच्छा दिखता है.
आज का भारत सारे जहां से अच्छा. Remember, Rakesh Sharma had first used these words when the then Prime Minister spoke to him when he went to space. So he says today's India is still sare jahan se acha, or looks the best from the space. Moving on, the national finale of DD Robocon India 2025 wrapped up in Delhi on Sunday. This year's theme was basketball, where student teams were challenged to design robots that could play the game, and in a thrilling showdown, GTU Robotics triumphed over Nirma Robocon to clinch the title.
The two-day DD Robocon India 2025 concluded in Delhi on Sunday. The event was jointly organized by Prasar Bharati, India's national broadcaster, and IIT Delhi. This year's theme was basketball, challenging participants to design robots capable of playing the sport. DD Robocon serves as the national stage for the prestigious Asia-Pacific Robot Competition. This year, GTU Robotics clinched the title, defeating Nirma Robocon in a thrilling final.
Ingredients of industrial scenario is here, including the team spirit, where mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, computer science engineering people would come together, make the robot. So we call that it is an industry ready.
Out of 72 teams from across India, 40 were shortlisted for the final event. With their victory, GTU Robotics will now represent India at the International Robocon 2025 to be held in Mongolia.
We had started this program before 1 year. So first of all, we have to train the new student. We have to teach them how to make the robots. Then they will come together and make robot. There are many challenges. In particular this theme, we got challenges of dribbling the ball, shooting the ball, jumping, dunking ball, passing the ball. So there are many challenges.
The competition plays a vital role in nurturing engineering talent across the country. It offers students a national platform to showcase their technical expertise and creative thinking, and prepares them to be industry-ready professionals. DD Robocon continues to be a cornerstone event in India's technical education landscape, offering a rare blend of creativity, competitiveness, and collaboration. For the participating students, it's not just about building robots, it's about building confidence, competence, and a vision for the future.
The Bharat Utsav, a festival celebrating India's rich cultural heritage, was celebrated in Moscow with full fervor. Moscow's iconic Manizhnaya Square turned into a vibrant celebration of Indian culture, where the festival enthralled the audience with its rich blend of dance, music, art, and spirituality. We leave you with these lovely visuals.